So we have our final speaker today, which is going to be Saskia.
Hey guys. I'm going to hopefully make this fast because I'm sure you're all really, really excited to ask us questions, and I think that's the more interesting part actually. But in order for you to be able to ask me some questions, you need to know a little bit about me. So I'm a statistician, and I think statistics is the best branch of mathematics. Sorry guys. So I want to tell you a little bit about what statistics is and how it has really shaped my life. So I already said it's a special branch of mathematics, and it's concerned really with the analysis and the interpretation of data, real life data, not your alternative universe that we've heard so much about today. And so the principles and algorithms that statisticians have developed during the last century, they really underpin much of our modern life. Just look at your mobile phone. We've heard so much about Facebook already. All these things are determined by statistics, what ads you see. And this is really shown by the fact that companies like Facebook, Apple, and Google are earning billions of dollars today using statistics to analyze your choices. I think you can tell that I'm a really passionate statistician, but that was actually not always the case. So in 2006, that's 12 years ago, and that really shows my age here, all I knew about statistics was how to calculate a mean. And all of you probably know that too. And like you at this moment, or maybe very soon, I was considering different universities and different degrees. I didn't really have a favorite subject at school. So I really had a hard time deciding what degree I should choose. So in year 10, my favorite subject was physics, because our teacher allowed us to play with circuitry. So maybe I should have chosen physics. In year 11, I preferred English because we got to read all of the best classics. Because I had no natural inclination, I really struggled. So in the end, I just kind of decided to apply for mathematics and economics degree at the University of London. And that was not because I was particularly good at math, but because I knew that hard work was going to be rewarded at math. So during all my school years, mathematics had always been the most challenging thing that I had to do. So homework took the longest time, and it required the most attention. But that being said, it was really the only subject that the time that I spent was strictly proportional to the number of correct answers I got on the exam. And that's a principle that really resonates with my principle of fairness. So I was like, okay, if I put in hard work, I can get things out here. Even though I put in a lot of hard work, I actually didn't really master mathematics. I didn't get grades that were high enough to get me into that university degree that I had chosen. So when the university offered me to actually accept a degree in statistical science instead, I was very grateful and accepted as thinking that it would essentially be the same thing. As you've heard already, it's not, kind of. So little did I know that I actually inadvertently ended up with a much better degree. That was a much better fit for me, and it opened up a lot of career paths. So my first realization that my relationship with statistics was actually a bit different to my relationship with math occurred actually almost instantaneously. So I remember being really astounded that the principles of uncertainty took me a lot less time to understand than the simple principles of geometry. And I think that we can learn a lesson from this. I don't want you to all become statisticians. I think the lesson here is that we tend to view mathematics as this homogeneous block of knowledge, when in reality it's actually extremely diverse and is a really, really dynamic discipline. So that means once you've mastered the basics of mathematics, your inability to understand maybe a tiny part of mathematics doesn't mean that another part of mathematics is closed off to you. You might be extremely talented in this other part of mathematics. So I think trying again and again, even if you failed in mathematics previously, is a really, really important thing to keep in mind. Because I think for everyone here, there's a special branch of mathematics out you where you will be really good at. All right, so after 4 years, which included 1 year at Purdue University in the States, I finished with a master's in statistical science. And again, I had no clear idea where I was good, in which areas of statistics I was really good at. I was kind of good at everything, but there was no real area where I excelled. So again, I didn't have an idea what to do after university. So despite knowing where it was applied in academia, I had also no idea where it was applied outside of academia. So when I started looking into possible options, I was kind of amazed that there were so many choices out there. And this is before a time when big data was mainstream and everyone was talking about statistics. So as a statistician, you could really work anywhere. And the choices that you had were, for example, insurance providers that were looking for statisticians to estimate risk, governments that were trying to hire statisticians to understand population dynamics. And there were also more quirky choices. So television consultancies that were interested in hiring statisticians to learn about the appeal of big sport events, for example. By the way, that's a job I should have taken, hearing the previous speaker. And then, for example, the London Metropolitan Police that thought for statisticians to help them identify key intelligence gaps. So you could have been a spy, kind of. So in the end, I decided to remain in academia, which, yeah, well, given that I could have been a spy, might have been a really sad choice. But I took up a PhD candidature at the University of Göttingen in Germany, and that's where I had grown up. So during my PhD, I was going to use statistics in order to make sense of genetics. And even though I had never really studied biology or genetics, I found that my statistics degree had actually prepared me really well for that challenge that lay ahead. All these critical thinking skills that we heard so much about. So since finishing my PhD, I have ventured further into the field of biology. So you may think that this would involve me using less statistics and mathematics, but that's actually not the case. So modern day science really relies on data analysis. We wouldn't be able to do any science today if it wasn't for data analysis. So in biology, for example, experiments routinely collect thousands of measurements, which you cannot just simply eyeball and come at a conclusion. What you need to do is use sophisticated statistical and mathematical methods in order to find these spectacular discoveries that you are after. So I analyze data about tiny molecules present in our brain. And with this data, I can tell my collaborators whether there are any differences between the types of molecules that are in the brain between a person that is suffering from epilepsy and a person without epilepsy. And identifying such molecules can really be the first step towards developing effective treatment for these really, really grave conditions. And in my analysis, I really rely on basic statistical methods, such as regression, but also on more complex approaches, such as machine learning. And my understanding of mathematics really helps me to confidently be able to apply both the simple and the more complex things, and then ultimately help my collaborators to identify these molecules. And so far, we have actually identified 2 tiny molecules that contribute to epilepsies that are experienced by children. So that's really good. So I hope that I could convey that there's an incredible range of possibilities out there for you. And with a firm mathematics background, these are all possibilities that are open to you. So I would have certainly never dreamt that one day I could be a scientist by just working really hard at math and statistics. So I would encourage you to always really challenge yourself a little bit with your level of mathematics that you're taking. It has to be a little bit uncomfortable. But if it's a little bit uncomfortable, it will in the end really reward you and give you all these amazing career choices and all these amazing degree choices that we have heard so much about today. Thank you.